Dear sisters, it's now been about 3 weeks since we have had the first death tolls from the virus that is devastating our country, other countries, our economy, and basically a lot of people's lives. And I'm sitting here wondering, having serviced and served the goddess of death and rebirth, Cerridwen, for 16 years now, I'm wondering where all this will end and what it is that we need to learn from the events that have been going on in the world. I want to talk to you about death. Despite the fact that in our more spiritually awakened communities, death is considered by most as a doorway into another world, for the most populace, this topic is a complete taboo still. Never has it been more evident than during this recent crisis, in which the death toll rises exponentially each day. Viewers of the daily report by the government are in shock. The media full of stories of loved ones lost, many of which died without seeing a member of their family or friends. Facebook threads, Twitter, Instagram, these stories of lone deaths abound and seem to be incredulous to most. And yet, for a Mary Curie end-of-life companion, this is a normal sight. As dreadful as it sounds, it is a constant reality for those of us who sit with the dying on a regular basis. So many of the people I visit in the hospital are alone, transferred from care homes whose staff are unable to look after them properly, having no training or time to meet the needs of the dying person. As you all know, I trained as a Sterbebegleiterin 33 years ago. And 8 years ago, on arriving here in Avalon and settling here as a priestess, it became clear to me that the circle was closing and I was returning to the beginning of the work that made my heart sing. After several encounters with the spirits of previous death priestesses in sacred sites around the world, hearing their stories, learning about their journeys in life, it became clear to me that I was called to return the death priestess to her rightful place in our world. Whether it was in Knossos or the Hypogeum in Malta or any other temple that I visited, including the West Kennet Long Barrow here in the UK, there was always a visit from one of the priestesses that held the death services and death rites for their own culture. There are people out there, good people, who use terms death doula, soul midwife, death midwife, and each are worthy of our greatest respect, but that is not who or what I am. I'm reaching back to the ancient ways, the death rites that were mysteriums, that were mysterious, that only the initiated learned and practiced. Their path was one of humility, humble service, graceful devotion, silence. Later passing those attributes to the sacred sisters of the Christian faith, who ideally would have been an example of that. Millions of people watched with pleasure the TV series Call the Midwife, in which we saw babies born, lots of them, and mostly in happy circumstances, a time of joy hopefully. And yet for me it was the few storylines in which the sisters were serving at time of death that were of interest to me. I was taught my work by nuns. Not being a Christian, it did feel alien, but the concept of care and compassion were the same as in my faith. At the time, the nuns were as close in devotion as one could get to what a priestess does, working in the community for the greatest good of all, working in harmony together. Nothing else will do. Without the distractions and interference of what we call modern life. The scenes I liked was when they would at the end of the day all march into the chapel and sing together. Priestesses who sing together are in harmony with each other. The Priestesses of Cerridwen are a singing order. It raises the vibration, clears blockages, releases negative emotions, soothes and uplifts the soul, and that is what is so dreadfully needed in this time. From ancient times before our records to Greece, Egypt, the Celtic lands, everywhere the Death Priestesses was present. Often cloistered in deep meditation and prayer, sequestered in protection against the daily interference of social activity. Theirs was a silent, peaceful life. They needed the strength so that they may be able to serve in the circumstances when they were called. Today we are the same, spending much time holding space in sacred prayer, song, in writing, in learning. We find our spiritual expansion, our balance. We are grounded in the earth, rooted in our faith. We are always a little separate from the hustle and bustle of modern life, going inwards, communing with the spirit world, the souls with whom we travel to the threshold of physical death and beyond. It takes a strong faith, a deep well of courage, mental strength, resilience, a confidence and conviction to walk this path. In this we are no different from any other spiritual support in the community. Yet our faith tells us that on the other side of the veil lies unimaginable peace, beauty and calm, that there is nothing to fear, that what the Christians would call a Garden of Eden is what we call Anun, the other world. We are all bound to return to our mother's arms. She welcomes us back and allows us to rest, sleep, dream, until such time that we are ready, our soul is ready for rebirth. Our soul is eternal. It is always available, whichever realm it dwells in. The Death Priestess is the guardian of the journey into that realm, hidden from view from most mortals. She opens the portals, she knows, and she can guide you to a good death without fear or suffering if you find you can surrender, believe and trust. It is my mission for the rest of my life to bring back that peace, that serving, that service. And there will only be a few of you called to this particular work. And there is no shame in that. It's not for everyone. But once you are a Death Priestess, I believe that you will be one over and over and over again. It is not a morbid fascination with oblivion. It is a joyful rendering of service, so that it can be as untraumatic as possible. I have seen people pass away who had made their peace, who knew who they were, who had said goodbye to everyone that needed to say goodbye, who were ready to leave this world. And their death was a really beautiful experience. That peace, that calm after a whole life, that wonderful going to sleep in the true knowledge that you are returning to a better place. And for me, there is nothing better than being by the side of a person who is walking that path. In perfect love and perfect trust with our Goddess, I ask you to examine your heart and see what it means to you to be with someone who is on the threshold, ready to pass across into the arms of Goddess. Blessed be.